The Awakening. Nasat death beams rained down on Earth, scorching cities to ash, vaporizing oceans, and annihilating billions of humans in a ruthless alien genocide. From the command bridge of the Nasat mothership, Fleet Lord Murloc watched the blue-green planet burn, the continents glowing orange with the firestorms of mass extermination. Monitors showed terrified humans incinerated by plasma blasts, skyscrapers collapsing, and forests igniting like torches in a hurricane. Disgusting vermin, Murloc spat. His black eyes gleamed with malice as he watched another human city vanish in a nuclear fireball. Erase them all. Leave no trace of their vile species. On the ravaged surface, the last vestiges of humanity perished in agony, their civilization reduced to smoldering ruins and blowing ash. But deep beneath the Arctic ice, hidden from the Nasat's murderous gaze, a secret chamber of cryogen pods hummed with power. Inside the armored cocoons, 5,000 biologically enhanced human super soldiers slept in frozen hibernation, kept as a last-ditch safeguard for humanity's survival. A flashing alert from the base's central AI triggered a revival protocol, and the pods cracked open in billowing veils of vapor. Darren Wilson emerged from cryosleep, a hardened Special Forces veteran with cybernetic battle armor grafted to his skin. He stared at the monitors showing Earth in flames, continents blasted to cinder, oceans boiling, the atmosphere ionizing from the Nasat's merciless orbital bombardment. No mercy, no survivors, only extinction. Darren's heart hammered as rage percolated through his nerves. His gaze swiveled to the other pods where his super soldier comrades lay dormant. Genetically modified posthumans, augmented by alien DNA and nanotech, killing machines, humanity's last hope. Darren grabbed a pulse rifle, the weapon humming to life in his cybernetically enhanced hands. Only one option remains now, he growled. Vengeance. Rise and shine, Alpha Squad. It's time to show these alien bastards what it means to mess with the human race. His words crackled through the cryo chamber. Earth needs her super soldiers, and she needs blood. One by one, the other enhanced humans stirred in their pods, eyes flaring open, muscles coiling, fingers curling into fists. The last 5,000 members of the human species inhaled in unison, not just soldiers, not just survivors, avengers. Darren stalked through the cryo chamber, pulse rifle in hand, as his fellow super soldiers emerged from their pods. They stumbled out, disoriented, but already snapping to attention, their bodies coiled with barely restrained power. The base's AI chimed in over the comms, its voice eerily calm amidst the chaos. Situation report. Earth's military forces have been decimated. NASA ground troops are conducting sweeps to eliminate any remaining human survivors. Satellite feeds flashed across the command center screens, showing scenes of unthinkable carnage. NASA death squads marched through the ruins of cities, their scanners pulsing, searching for any signs of life. When a human was detected, cowering in the rubble, the aliens showed no mercy. Plasma beams lanced out, reducing the survivors to piles of charred bones. Darren's grip tightened on his rifle as he watched the slaughter. These men and women surrounding him. They were Earth's last hope, the pinnacle of human evolution, crafted for one purpose: war. Each super soldier was a walking arsenal, their DNA spliced with alien genes, their bodies enhanced with cutting-edge cybernetics. They could run faster, jump higher, hit harder than any unaugmented human. Neural implants gave them lightning-fast reflexes and instant access to a library of combat tactics. But right now, they looked lost, confused. Their minds were still foggy from cryosleep, still processing the magnitude of the destruction that had been wrought upon their world. Darren needed to give them purpose. He needed to give them direction. He strode to the center of the command room, his voice booming through the confined space. Listen up, Alpha Squad. The Nasat have taken our planet. They've slaughtered our species, but they made one mistake. They left us alive. Glances were exchanged between the assembled soldiers. Some looked uncertain. Others' expressions hardened with the first embers of rage. "We are Project Hercules," Darren continued, "the finest warriors humanity ever created. And we have a new mission." He punched a command into the console, bringing up a holographic projection of Earth. Red dots indicated NASAT positions, swarming like angry ants over the planet's surface. "We're going to strike back against these alien bastards. We're going to find any human survivors and bring them to safety." And most importantly, Darren's eyes flashed with barely contained fury. "We're going to make the NASAT pay for what they've done. We're going to show them the true meaning of vengeance." A roar of approval swept through the gathered soldiers, their doubts and confusion vanishing, replaced with the cold certainty of purpose. They pounded their fists against their chests, a resounding battle cry that echoed through the base. There would be a reckoning. The NASAT had sown the wind. Now they would reap the whirlwind. Humanity's avengers had awakened, and they thirsted for alien blood. First strike. The super soldiers sprang into action, storming the armory with ruthless efficiency. They armed themselves with an arsenal of advanced weaponry, plasma rifles that could melt through NASAT armor like butter, exoskeletons that enhanced their already superhuman strength and speed, and portable energy shields to deflect incoming fire. Darren's voice cracked over the comlink as he laid out the battle plan. "Alpha Squad, you're with me. We're going to hit that NASAT command post hard and fast. I want intel on their troop movements, their supply lines, anything that can give us an edge. Bravo Squad, your job is to sabotage their infrastructure, blow up their generators, collapse their tunnels, whatever it takes to slow them down. Charlie Squad, we've got civilians out there. Find them, protect them, bring them back alive. And Delta Squad," he paused, his eyes locking with the soldiers in question. They were the tech heads, the ones who could make a computer sit up and beg. "I need you to get into the NASAT comms, intercept their transmissions, jam their signals. Make them think they're hearing the voice of their own god, if that's what it takes. Sow chaos in their ranks." The super soldiers nodded, their expressions grim but determined. They knew what was at stake. The fate of their species hung in the balance. Suddenly, an alarm blared through the base. The AI's voice echoed over the speakers. "Alert. Incoming NASAT patrol detected. Estimated time of arrival, 2 minutes." Darren cursed under his breath. The cryopods must have given off an energy signature when they activated. It was like sending up a flare for the NASAT to follow. But then, a slow grin spread across his face. This was their chance to send a message, to show the NASAT that humanity would not go gentle into that good night. "All right, people, you heard the lady. We've got company coming. Let's give them a warm welcome." The super soldiers moved with practiced precision, taking up defensive positions around the base's entrance. They crouched behind hastily erected barricades, their weapons primed and ready. The air hummed with the charge of their energy shields, a faint blue glow emanating from each soldier. Darren took point, his plasma rifle nestled against his shoulder. His enhanced vision picked out the heat signatures of the approaching NASAT, their forms a blazing red against the cool blue of the Arctic landscape. "Steady," he murmured over the comm. "Let them get in close. We want to look them in the eye when we send them to hell." The ground began to tremble as the NASAT patrol drew nearer, the heavy footfalls shaking loose pebbles from the base's ceiling. The soldiers' grip tightened on their weapons, fingers hovering over triggers. And then, with a roar that shook the very foundations of the earth, the NASAT burst through the entrance. They were hulking brutes, their bodies encased in thick chitinous armor, their eyes glowing a sickly yellow, and their maws dripping with viscous, acid green saliva. Darren's lips peeled back in a snarl. "Open fire." The base erupted into a maelstrom of plasma fire and searing energy beams. The NASAT's armor melted under the onslaught, their flesh bubbling and slaving away. They screamed in agony, a sound that was music to the super soldiers' ears. But the NASAT did not fall easily. They returned fire with their own weapons, lances of searing light that cut through the air like scalpels. Soldiers cried out as the beams found their mark, their enhanced bodies struggling to regenerate from the devastating wounds. Darren ducked behind a barricade, his heart pounding in his ears. This was just a taste of what was to come. A small patrol, easily dispatched. But out there, beyond the walls of the base, an entire army of Nasset awaited them. And he couldn't wait to make them bleed. The Nasset patrol crept closer, their heavy footfalls shaking the ground. Hovering drones buzzed overhead, scanners sweeping the area for any signs of life. They had no idea what awaited them inside the base. Darren's enhanced vision zeroed in on the lead Nasset soldier, a hulking brute with a plasma cannon cradled in its arms. He waited, his finger hovering over the trigger of his rifle, as the alien took one step, then another. The moment the Nasset crossed the threshold, Darren's voice crackled over the comm. Engage. The super soldiers erupted from their positions, a blur of motion and deadly precision. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air, finding their marks in the Nasset armor. The aliens reeled back, caught off guard by the sudden onslaught, but they recovered quickly, returning fire with a barrage of laser beams that cut through the air like scalpels. The super soldiers dove for cover, their enhanced reflexes allowing them to evade the deadly light. Darren surged forward, his rifle spitting plasma at the Nasset soldiers. One fell, then another, their heads snapping back as the bolts found their mark. He could feel the heat of the plasma as it passed inches from his face, but he didn't flinch. This was what he was made for. The other super soldiers moved in perfect synchronicity, their neural implants allowing them to communicate wordlessly. They flanked the Nasset, hitting them from all sides with a relentless barrage of firepower. But the aliens kept coming, their numbers seemingly endless. And then, with a deafening roar, a massive war drone entered the fray. It hovered above the battlefield, its armor gleaming in the light of the plasma fire. A cannon emerged from its undercarriage, glowing with an eerie red light. "Take cover," Darren shouted, just as the drone fired. A beam of pure energy lanced out, carving a molten path through the base's walls. Soldiers scattered, diving behind whatever cover they could find. Darren's mind raced, analyzing the drone's weaknesses. Its armor was too thick to penetrate with standard plasma fire, but every machine had a weak point. "Concentrate fire on the drone's underbelly," he ordered over the comm. "Aim for the cannon mount." The super soldiers obeyed, pouring plasma into the drone's undercarriage. The machine shuddered under the onslaught, its armor beginning to glow with the heat of the sustained fire. Darren primed a plasma grenade, his enhanced muscles coiling as he prepared to throw. He waited, watching as the drone's armor began to crack and split. There, a hairline fracture, just wide enough. Darren hurled the grenade with all his strength, the explosive arcing through the air and slipping into the crack in the drone's armor. A heartbeat passed, then with a blinding flash and a deafening roar, the drone exploded. Shrapnel and alien body parts rained down on the battlefield, the Nasset soldiers scattering in panic. Darren pressed the advantage, leading the charge as the super soldiers mopped up the remaining aliens. Plasma fire and screams filled the air until finally, silence fell over the base once more. The soldiers regrouped, checking each other for injuries. Their enhanced bodies had already begun to heal, flesh knitting back together and burns fading. They scavenged what they could from the fallen Nasset, gathering weapons and technology that could prove useful in the battles to come. Darren looked out over the carnage, his expression grim. This was just the beginning, he knew, a single patrol, easily dispatched. But out there, a whole army of Nasset waited, ready to burn humanity from the face of the earth. They had won this battle, but the war was just beginning. In the base's command center, Delta Squad huddled around a bank of monitors, their faces illuminated by the glow of the screens. Fingers flew across keyboards as they delved into the Nasset communication network, lines of code scrolling past at breakneck speed. Suddenly, one of the soldiers, a lanky man with a shock of red hair, leaned back in his chair. "Holy crap," he breathed. "Guys, you need to see this." The others crowded around, their eyes widening as they read the intercepted transmission. The Nasset invasion of Earth, it seemed, was just the tip of the iceberg. The aliens were part of a vast, galaxy-spanning empire, with Earth as their latest conquest in a long line of subjugated worlds. But it was the mention of the Doomsday device that sent a chill down their spines, an artifact of immense power, capable of destroying entire star systems. And the Nasset were searching for it. Darren strode into the command center, his brow furrowed. "What have you got, Delta?" The red-haired soldier spun in his chair. "The Nasset aren't just here for Earth, sir. They plan to use it as a staging ground for a full-scale invasion of the Milky Way." Darren's eyes narrowed. "And this Doomsday device? Some kind of alien superweapon? The Nasset are tearing the planet apart looking for it." Darren's fist slammed against the wall, the metal denting under the force of the blow. The stakes had just been raised to a whole new level. It wasn't just about avenging Earth anymore. The fate of the entire galaxy hung in the balance. He turned to face the super soldiers, his expression hardening. "Change of plans. Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie squads will proceed with their original missions. But Delta, your new objective is to find that Doomsday device before the Nasset do. Whatever it takes." The soldiers nodded, their faces set with determination. They knew what was at stake. The future of humanity, of every sentient species in the Milky Way, rested on their enhanced shoulders. As the squads prepared to depart, Darren watched them load up into heavily armored vehicles, each one a rolling fortress filled with enough firepower to level a small city. He felt a surge of pride as he looked at his fellow super soldiers. They were the best of the best, the pinnacle of human evolution. If anyone could stop the Nasset and defend the cosmos, it was them. The vehicles roared to life, their engines thrumming with power. Darren climbed into the lead car, his plasma rifle cradled in his lap. He looked out at the ruined landscape, the once vibrant Earth now a blasted wasteland. "Let's roll," he said into the comm. "We got a galaxy to save." The Doomsday device. The ruins of New York City loomed before Alpha Squad, a haunting reminder of the destruction the Nasset had wrought upon Earth. Skyscrapers that once touched the sky now lay in crumbled heaps, their metal skeletons twisted and scorched. The streets were choked with debris and the rusted husks of abandoned vehicles, a grim testament to the hasty evacuation that had taken place. Darren and his team moved silently through the shadows, their enhanced senses on high alert for any signs of Nasset activity. They had infiltrated the alien command post on the outskirts of the city, slipping past the perimeter defenses with ease thanks to their advanced stealth technology and superhuman agility. The command post was a monolithic structure of gleaming metal and pulsing energy fields, a stark contrast to the ruined cityscape that surrounded it. Darren's eyes narrowed as he took in the sight, his enhanced vision picking out the faint shimmering of the force fields that protected the building. "All right, team," he said over the comm, his voice low and steady. "We're going in. Stay sharp and watch each other's backs. We don't know what kind of resistance we're going to face in there." The squad moved as one, their movements synchronized through their neural implants. They breached the outer defenses with a series of precise plasma blasts, the force field sputtering and failing under the onslaught. Inside, the command post was a maze of gleaming corridors and humming machinery. Nasset soldiers patrolled the halls, their chitinous armor clattering with each step. Darren signaled to his team, and they split up, moving through the facility like ghosts. It was in the heart of the command post that they struck gold, a central data hub, its screens flickering with a constant stream of information. Darren's fingers flew across the alien keyboard, his neural implants translating the Nasset language with ease. What he found made his blood run cold. The Nasset's invasion of Earth was far more extensive than they had initially believed. The aliens had established bases on every continent, their forces numbering in the millions. But it was the mention of the research facilities that caught Darren's eye. "They're experimenting on humans," he said, his voice tight with barely contained rage. trying to unlock the secrets of our genetic code. They want to create their own army of super soldiers. The images that flashed across the screen were horrific. Human test subjects, their bodies twisted and mutilated by the NASA's cruel experiments. Men, women, and children, all reduced to lab rats in the aliens' quest for power. Darren hit his fist against the console, the metal denting under the force of the blow. "We have to stop this," he growled. "We have to put an end to these atrocities." He downloaded the location of the main research facility, his mind already racing with plans for a full-scale assault. The NASAT had picked the wrong species to mess with. They had no idea what they were up against. As the squad regrouped, Darren briefed them on the situation. "We're going to hit that research facility with everything we've got," he said, his eyes blazing with fury. "We're going to free those prisoners and burn that place to the ground. The NASAT are going to learn the hard way what happens when you mess with humanity." The super soldiers nodded, their expressions grim but determined. They were ready for this fight, ready to unleash the full might of their enhanced abilities against the alien invaders. The research facility was located deep in the heart of what had once been the American Midwest, now a blasted wasteland of ruined farmland and abandoned towns. The NASAT had erected a massive compound here, its walls filled with advanced weaponry and patrolled by heavily armed guards. But the super soldiers of Alpha Squad were not deterred. They had faced worse odds before and emerged victorious. This would be no different. They struck like lightning, plasma rifles blazing as they stormed the compound. The NASAT guards fell before them, their armor no match for the super soldiers' enhanced strength and speed. Darren led the charge, his weapon spitting death with every squeeze of the trigger. They fought their way into the heart of the facility, the corridors ringing with the sounds of battle. NASAT scientists fled before them, their experiments abandoned in their haste to escape. And then they found the prisoners. Dozens of human test subjects, their bodies ravaged by the NASAT experiments. Some were barely recognizable as human, their flesh warped and twisted by the aliens' genetic manipulations. Others lay still and silent, their lives snuffed out by the cruelty of their captors. Among the survivors was a woman, her once white lab coat stained with blood and grime. She looked up at Darren with haunted eyes, her voice trembling as she spoke. "I'm Dr. Eliza Novak," she said. "I was forced to work on the NASAT experiments. They were trying to unlock the secrets of your genetic enhancements, to create their own army of super soldiers." Darren's eyebrows furrowed as he listened to her words. The NASAT had gone too far. They had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. "We have to destroy this place," he said, his voice hard as steel. "We have to make sure they can never do this again." Dr. Novak nodded, her eyes flashing with a newfound determination. "I can help," she said. "I know this facility inside and out. I can show you where to plant the charges for maximum damage." Darren hesitated for a moment, weighing the risks, but he knew they had no choice. They had to end this here and now. "Lead the way, Doctor," he said. Together, they rigged the facility with explosives, placing them at key structural points to ensure total destruction. As they worked, Dr. Novak filled them in on the extent of the NASAT experiments, the horrors she had been forced to witness. They were close to replicating the process, she said, her voice hollow with exhaustion and grief. They were so close to creating their own super soldiers. "We can't let that happen." Darren nodded grimly. "We won't," he promised. With the charges set and the survivors evacuated, Alpha Squad made their escape. They watched from a distance as the research facility went up in flames, the explosions lighting up the night sky like a second sunrise. As the smoke cleared, Darren turned to his squad, his expression hard and determined. "This is just the beginning," he said. "The NASAT have underestimated us. They think they can break us, but they're wrong. We're going to take this fight to them on every front. We're going to make them pay for what they've done." The super soldiers nodded, their faces set with the same grim determination. They had struck a blow against the NASAT today, but the war was just getting started. They still had a planet to save and a galaxy to protect. But for now, They had new information and a renewed sense of purpose. They knew what they were fighting for, and they would not rest until the Nasset threat was eliminated once and for all. The guerrilla campaign. Deep in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, Delta Squad treaded through the dense undergrowth, their enhanced senses on high alert for any signs of Nasset activity. Sergeant Jack Maverick Thompson, the squad's tech expert, led the way, his eyes glued to the holographic map projected from his wrist-mounted computer. The intel they had gathered pointed to a heavily fortified Nasset stronghold hidden within the jungle, and Maverick was determined to find it. As they pushed deeper into the rainforest, the sound of gunfire erupted in the distance. Delta Squad immediately dropped into combat stances, their weapons at the ready. Maverick signaled for the squad to move forward cautiously, and they soon came upon a small group of human survivors engaged in a fierce firefight with a Nasset patrol. Among the survivors was a battle-hardened warrior with a grizzled beard and piercing eyes. He fought with a ferocity that matched the super soldiers, taking down Nasset troops with precise shots from his plasma rifle. Maverick recognized him instantly from the intelligence briefings. Miguel Ghost Ramirez, a former Special Forces operative who had been leading a guerrilla campaign against the Nasset. As the last of the alien soldiers fell, Ghost turned to face Delta Squad, his rifle still smoking. "You must be the super soldiers," he said, his voice rough with exhaustion. "I've heard about you. Thought you were just a myth." Maverick stepped forward, removing his helmet to reveal his youthful face. "We're real, and we're here to take down the Nasset. We've got intel that they're hiding something big in a stronghold near here, something called the Doomsday Device." Ghost's eyes widened. "The Doomsday Device. I've heard whispers about it. They say it's some kind of alien artifact with the power to destroy entire planets." Maverick nodded grimly. "And we need to get our hands on it before the Nasset do. You know this jungle better than anyone. Will you help us?" Ghost hesitated for a moment, his gaze shifting to the survivors who stood behind him. They were a ragtag bunch, armed with whatever weapons they could scavenge, but they had the look of people who had been fighting for too long. Finally, he turned back to Maverick. "All right, we'll help you. But I want your word that you'll get my people to safety once this is over." Maverick extended his hand. "You have it." Together, Delta Squad and the survivors set out towards the Nasset stronghold, Ghost leading the way through the twisting jungle paths. As they approached the fortress, they could see the shimmering energy fields that surrounded it and the heavily armed Nasset guards patrolling its perimeter. "We need to hit them hard and fast," Ghost said, his eyes scanning the defenses. "Maverick, you and your squad take out those generators. That should bring down the energy fields. We'll provide covering fire and keep the guards busy." Maverick nodded, already formulating a plan. "We'll need to be precise. We can't afford to alert the whole base." As the super soldiers moved into position, Ghost and his survivors prepared to launch their assault. On Maverick's signal, they struck, plasma bolts and grenades raining down on the Nasset guards. Delta Squad moved swiftly, their enhanced speed and agility allowing them to dodge the incoming fire and close in on the generators. Maverick hacked into the stronghold's security systems, his augmented mind processing the complex algorithms in seconds. With a final keystroke, the energy fields flickered and died, leaving the fortress vulnerable. Together, Delta Squad and the survivors stormed the stronghold, fighting their way through the maze of corridors and chambers. Nasset soldiers fell before their onslaught, but the aliens kept coming, their weapons growing more desperate and deadly with each passing minute. At last, they reached the heart of the stronghold, a vast chamber pulsing with eerie green light. And there, at its center, stood the Doomsday Device, a towering monolith of alien metal and pulsing energy. But as they approached, a figure emerged from the shadows, his eyes glinting with malice. It was Murloc, the Nasset Fleet Lord, and he held a wicked-looking plasma sword in his clawed hands. "You are too late," he snarled, his voice dripping with contempt. "The Doomsday Device is mine, And with it, I will burn your pathetic species from the face of the galaxy." Ghost stepped forward, his rifle leveled at Murloc's head. "Not if we have anything to say about it." The battle that followed was fierce and bloody, with Delta Squad and the survivors throwing everything they had at the Nasset warlord. But Murloc was a formidable opponent, his plasma sword cutting through their armor like butter. In a moment of desperation, Ghost charged forward, his rifle blazing. He managed to land a blow on Murloc, but the Nasset leader was too fast, his sword slicing through Ghost's chest in a spray of blood. Maverick watched in horror as Ghost fell, but he knew that he couldn't let his sacrifice be in vain. With a final burst of speed, he lunged for the Doomsday device, his hands closing around its glowing core. Murloc let out a roar of rage, but it was too late. Maverick had the device, and with a final desperate effort, he and the remaining members of Delta Squad fought their way out of the stronghold, the survivors providing cover fire as they went. As they emerged into the sunlight, Maverick activated his comlink, his voice trembling with exhaustion and grief. "Darren, it's Maverick. We have the Doomsday device, but we lost Ghost. The Nasset know we have it, and they'll be coming for us. We need to regroup and plan our next move." He looked down at the glowing core in his hands, the weight of the galaxy resting on his shoulders. The battle against the Nasset was just getting started, but with the Doomsday device in their possession, humanity had a fighting chance, and Maverick knew that he and his fellow super soldiers would stop at nothing to see their mission through to the end.